everybody, this is Mandy from Chapel of Forge. Hopefully you can hear me over our very loud, not very happy, currently being weaned baby goats. So this is Cosmo with the white, that's Cosmo, with not the white, that's Venus. Their mom is Twilight. She had them about 12 weeks ago. We probably should have weaned them maybe at 6 to 8 weeks, but we gave them a little extra time. We were ready to start getting more milk, so we're working on the weaning process. So I brought Zad along today. He's my infrastructure guy, and he is going to tell you about what he set up, how we're doing this, and how we're making it work with raising 3 goats with everything else we have going on our 3 acres.
So typically, this 2 panels here goes up to our fence post where the gate is, and this area all is open for the goats. This is their main area, the main area they'd hang out in when we were moving the fence around to rotate their area in the woods. Because we needed to separate them and wean them, we needed to give the kids an area to play and be able to roam, but then also give Twilight an area to roam. So we took 2 panels of the electric fence and opened it up into a chute, and then put a whole nother 2 runs of fence that go out and around the island between the yard and the trail. And that's her area to graze, and this is their area. They have hay and water. I built this barrier and to separate them. So because this is an electric fence here, I used wood and PVC tubing to secure this piece of cattle panel. And because they're little Houdinis, we had to put some lattice on the bottom to keep them from crawling through. The PVC and the wood are non-conductors, or they won't allow the electricity to go through, so if you touch it, you're not getting shocked. So we have that up as a barrier to where the electric fence meets up. And then we have a door here that allows us to go through and keeps the Twilight from the kids. And then we just lock it like that. They can't get through it. This is our gravity-fed water system that we have for them with the bowl here. And with this, they can get water from this side, she can get water from this side, but they can't get through that area. But they can still use the same water system to get their hydration. Here's the feed bag, or the hay bag for them. It's a slow feeder. They just come in, nibble, and pull what they want out and eat from there. And then there's some green growing in here, not a whole lot because this is their main area. They have the tires to play on and play around in wooden stumps. And in time, we're gonna bury some of these tires upright and get some more stuff for them to kind of play on and climb on. We have an old playhouse that's going to get erected on the backside of the goat barn so that they can climb up and go down, and a bunch of other things that are down the road in the future. We can show you what we did on the inside as far as how they're separated in there compared to what it was like before they were separated, and how that all works, and how they have an exit and entrance to get into the goat barn from the main entrance that they originally had.
Really quick, I want to show you kind of what Twilight's chute looks like. So Twilight can just walk through here. She can come up. So typically this is our trail. This is our path in the woods. We come through here with the 4-wheeler, the tractor. It's our walking path, all that. So it's blocked off temporarily while she works through this. So she has got a ton of forage in here for her right now. You know, we try to rotate pasture as best we can on 3 acres with the vegetation that we have. Obviously, we do have to offer free choice hay. We give Twilight grain because she is in milk, so she does get a few cups of grain a day right now. She also got a few cups of grain while she was pregnant. We'll be breeding her again in December, so we're hoping to get milk until then. You can see that she's ready to be milked. I usually milk her in the evening. We've been getting about a ½ gallon to 3/4 gallon a day since we weaned the babies. So this is awesome. We are planning on using this to raise quail. We have some quail cages. We're gonna kind of put them like right here in the middle, I believe, kind of in this open space between these trees. So that'll be really cool that we can add that in. We've talked about adding meat rabbits. If so, we could add that cage right next to it. So this will be great. We're gonna use Twilight to basically weed eat this for us. She's gonna get free food. We don't have to weed eat it. I mean, it seems silly to weed eat it when she can use it as food. So this is the perfect space for her. She has a lot of room to eat and forage and just kind of be. So I know it's probably hard on her little goat mommy heart with her babies over here, but hopefully within the next few weeks, everybody will be a little bit happier. So Zad's gonna show you what we're doing on the inside to make this work so that everybody stays away from each other while we work on weaning.
So we got this shed, barn, whatever you want to call it.
Technically an antique chicken coop.
Yeah, it was originally a chicken coop that was on a farm or a piece of property. The shed company hauled it out of there for the people who originally had it and brought it to their location, had it for sale. It was perfect situation for us. It was in our price point. It was a 10 by 10 chicken coop, had a front door and a side door, and we looked at it and went, you know what, this is perfect for what we need to do.
In our price point.
In our price point. We had originally the way I laid it out, and we'll show you when we get inside. Part of it was going to be the milking parlor for Mandy, so she had a place to get in out of the weather and be able to milk. And then the other portion was going to be for the goats. At that time, we only had 2. Twilight was pregnant. We had one other one that we were given from our neighbor that was free that got us into it. So what you see in here wasn't here when we got it. We completely put in everything that you see other than the structure itself. So we put cow mats in to protect the wooden floor and to keep all the moisture and whatever that would be there off the floor. We put in a barrier to separate them from the milking area, the gate door to go in and out, and then I did some lighting and some electrical work on the inside. Hey.
And I forgot to lock that apparently when I turned off the fence.
I didn't lock it because I thought we were going to be going in there.
Well, perfect example as to why we keep them locked up.
So it's a little low ceiling in here. That was the only unideal part about this for being 2 fairly tall people.
Yeah.
This is a door that would go to the outside. This is where her milking parlor was going to be. So the milking stand is here. This window is in the wintertime may be closed. In the summertime it's open. This door didn't exist. I just put this in for these guys. So this was going to be her milking area. Keep her green and her other supplies. I had a shelf up here. The energizer was up on the wall. Light switch. So when you came in the door, you could turn the lights on and off. The area over here was going to be just for the goats. So they had their area to bed. They had a hay rack, a mineral bucket, and a water bucket before we got the gravity system in. We were just bringing buckets down. And then the door here was so that you could go out, you could open the door up, go out, bring the goat in, close it, keep it away from the other goat. When we needed to separate the goats because the one goat was being kind of mean to Twilight, the pregnant goat, we then used this as a
kind of isolation
separation deal. So I had built the walls. We put, I won't call it cattle panel. It's smaller grid than cattle panel. It's like,
I think this was the hog panel.
Yeah. It was like cattle panel, but the holes are smaller. I did that so that their horns, the one that we had to have, wouldn't get stuck. They couldn't get their heads in and get hung up in it. So we skinned the walls with that. I made the door here for that. And then we needed to wean them. So what I did was we decided this area was the better spot for the kids to be weaned at, and keep Twilight in the bigger on the other side. They still can see each other. They just can't get to each other. So I framed out that wall because there was no framing there, and just used reclaimed lumber that we had sitting around, and the composite deck boards that were laying around. I used those because they're kind of more of a plastic and they slide on each other. They're not going to expand with rain or humidity or any of that. So we wouldn't have any issues where the door won't go up or the door won't go down. So the hole that I cut out was probably bigger than I needed to, but it works for what we're doing. They can still get out and get in with no problem. As they get larger, they'll probably not need to use this because they'll be back over with Twilight, and this can then either get turned back into the milking parlor, or it can get turned into storage for straw or hay or whatever we might need. Sometimes you have to be a little versatile in your structures or in your space. Right now we have our rack or our cage for transport flipped upside down, sitting on pallets with a canvas tarp and 2 pieces of cattle panel and a tarp to hold hay in it, because we don't have enough structures for the hay that we have.
And we got a really great deal.
Well, yeah, we ran on a really good deal that we couldn't pass up. It was $2 a bale, and if the bales broke open when moving them, they were free. So all the loose stuff got thrown in there. All the bales that were still tightly bound got put in our other structure, which we can show you here in a moment. And you can see how we're doing that. All these structures were a reused, repurposed, secondhand deal.
I don't think we have any new sheds or infrastructure on this property at all.
The mower lawn garden shed was...
It was used by the shed company.
But the shed company used it when their shop burnt down.
Right.
So we got it at a discount because they used it to hold their supplies until they got their new shop. So, yes, used, but only by them. So other than that, yeah, all the stuff that we have here is repurposed. If you don't mind putting a little bit of time and elbow grease into it and breathing some new life into it, you can usually find yourself a pretty decent bargain. Do you remember what we paid for this?
For this? I think it was $1,500 delivered.
Yeah, $1,500 delivered, which means the shed truck brought it here, and then they have what's called a mule. It's a little walking stand-on type of little piece of equipment that they unload it from the shed trailer, and they are able to get it back into a tighter, more compact area where you can't get a truck and a trailer. So that one, we put the pad in ourselves, the stone pad. We were going to do cinder blocks, but it was just going to be a lot of cinder blocks, a lot of time to get everything leveled. It was a lot quicker just getting 2 truckloads of stone, leveling it off, and having them drop it on here. So we'll go outside, and I'll show you.
So, hold on, you have to excuse our neighbor mowing. He's always mowing when we're recording. I guess that's my fault. I should record not in the evening when he gets home from work. Okay, go ahead, babe.
So we're running a hard line down here. Right now we just have extension cords. It's not the right way to do it. It's not the safe way to do it. It's what we had to get by till we could do it the right way.
Plus the first goat we got was like super on the fly. It was kind of rushed.
It was right after the heart attack.
Yeah, the neighbor needed to get rid of the goat.
And it was free.
Yeah.
So this is UF wire. It is meant for outdoors, to be in the sun or to be in the ground, to be in the elements. We flew these through the air. As much as I'd like to go underground, it just kind of outside the budget, but it will go to the house. The goats will have their own breaker, 20 amp breaker, and the chickens will have their own 20 amp breaker. They both run the electric fences. In the wintertime, it will run heat lamps, water heaters, all the stuff that they need to run, and we won't be running it off of the barn where the shop is or the house and miles of extension cord, which is not safe or the right way to do it. So that's what this wire is hanging here. this is the guillotine door style, what I built. It's a lot of reclaimed plastic lumber, poly lumber. So what it is you have one board here, some filler board here to set it back, and then another one, and then this piece here just slides up and down a channel. So it goes up and down that channel. Here, because that door is probably close to 50 pounds heavy at least, poly lumber is very heavy, we had to do some pulley work. So pulleys and your leverage can take a lot of heaviness and make it into light work. So we have a eyelet that's about 6 inches long that goes into the main beam of the truss up here. As you can see, that runs through, that holds the roof. That goes through, then the pulley is tied on up top here, and then it goes through the pulley to the bottom single pulley, back up to the double pulley, and it goes down here to where we have it anchored on. So what you do is, when you're going to close up for the end of the night, all you got to do is pull that rope, take it off the hook, and lower it down.
It's so cool and so handy.
We did it this way because I wanted to make it that Mandy didn't have to go through one gate, go through another gate, try to keep the kids from coming over to Twilight or Twilight going to the kids. She can just step out to the side of the fence, grab the pulley, open it up in the morning, or close it in the evening and not have to go through a bunch of gates. It might sound like being lazy, but when you have a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 12-year-old, your time is very valuable, and all that extra time of walking through those gates, whether it's dark, at night, or early in the morning, wet, raining, whatever, it takes up a lot of your time. And as much as a lot of people hate this saying, time is money, your time is valuable. So for her to be able to just come up here, grab this rope, pull it up, this, I mean, I can do it with one finger here. Without those pulleys and just one single pulley, a smaller pulley at that, you couldn't do it with 2 hands. It was everything you had in your might to get it to go up.
That's what we started with, and then
that's what we started with because that's what we had on the property, in the shop, sitting on the shelf. Once I realized that that one single little pulley wasn't going to do it, I think it was about a 1/2 inch round pulley. We went to, I think these are inch round pulleys, and we did a double with a single, and it just made the lifting so much easier to do it. And so that is how we open and close up the kid door in the evening or in the morning so that they can go out and have their run. When we don't have the kids in here and it goes back to being whatever it is, this door can get dropped and it'll be fine the way it is. It's sealed up, it's weather tight, and we won't have to worry about that. But it's here if we need it again. If we have more kids that we need to wean, or if we have another goat that we can't have with the other ones, whether it's a male goat, a buck, then we can use this. I can adjust the door if I need to get it to be raising higher. Right now you can see that it only is going to go so far up. But we've talked about possibly adding a second story to this and making that so that we have hay storage or straw storage. Making it that when we're standing in there, it's a taller ceiling so we're not hitting our heads. So, you know, we have to figure in the cost of lumber with all the prices and everything being where they are, seeing if we can find reclaimed, possibly taking the time to take this roof off slowly and methodically so that we can reuse that roof and maybe reuse some of that lumber to cut down on our costs. So this door, we had a piece of paracord down here to keep it open. Really hasn't been needed. So the night I was doing this door, I thought, wow, she still has to go through this gate to close that door at night for the goats. I had a piece of paracord left over. Paracord is awesome. We keep it by the spool because we use it so much. It's 550 cord or parachute cord, paracord. It also is known, I think, as 550 cord. 550 means 550 foot-pounds of torque it can hold. For a very small piece of rope, it is very strong stuff. So I happened to have a piece of this left over. So what I did was I used a washer and a loop, and I anchored it here into the door. So now in the evenings, all she has to do is pull this door shut from here, and she can close the door. Wood swelled a little bit from the storm last night.
Yeah, we got a lot of rain.
And the straws kicked out from us walking in there. But she can close that door and lock it up at night. All she's got to do is turn that and give it a push open, and it's ready for the goat to come out in the morning. And then she can come back down and do her feed and water and all that when she needs to. Milking, which, you know, right now she's doing in the evening. So this saves her, I'm going to guess, maybe 15 minutes. If it was the other way, where you'd have to go through this gate, close this gate, go through that gate, close that gate, go over there, open that door, come back around, all that extra time. Yes, you're getting extra steps in and getting some exercise in, but in this instance, it saves time in the morning when things are usually more hectic and crazy.
And saves stress, because if the babies come out, or if I'm holding the human baby and only have one hand.
So all this stuff she can do one-handed if she has Zuzu with her, or Jamie's following along, and she doesn't have to mess with any extra parts of the wheel to you know, get that morning chore taken care of. So this is our animal carrier, or crate, that we put on our trailer, our landscape trailer, and use it to haul the animals when we went to go pick them up, if we need to take them to get bread. It's upside down right now. This is the door that opens. It was actually for hauling hogs.
The chickens like to lay here. I guess someone decided they were going to eat them today, so I guess that's 3 eggs. I'm out.
So we got this, once again, used from a farmer. It was his granddad's. They used it for hogs. It works perfect for the size goats that we have. Bigger goats, it would be a little short for, but I can always add on, make extensions. It's extremely heavy. It's all steel, but we got it for 400 bucks. Yes, I'm a blacksmith. Yes, I'm a metal fabricator. I could have made this, but the amount of time and the materials that I would have put into it,
and the rising price of steel,
and the rising cost of steel, it was quicker and easier to purchase this, and then if I need to do modifications to it to fit our needs, than for me to do it all from scratch.
With brand new steel.
Yeah, it was brand new steel. So this thing was his grandfather's, and if it was his grandfather's then, they built things to last the test of time.
And that dude was probably in his mid-50s.
Yeah, so this thing's been around for a long time. There was a couple spots where a hog that they had in it had really done some really hardcore bending and damage. So I did modify that and fix those. We got into a position where we got that hay, like I said earlier, and we don't have a big barn to put hay, so we put pallets down to get it up off the ground. We had a canvas tarp on it from when we went and got a goat, and it was in the winter, so we put the tarp on to cover it, to give a wind break, to keep the wind chill down. So what we did is we just flipped it upside down, and we took this cattle panel, we ratchet strapped the side all the way around to hold it in. More or less made ourselves a Conestoga wagon.
Which is funny because we live in Conestoga.
We're the home of the wagon. So now we have a spot that we can stack our extra hay. We use this versus our primary use. It's right there close to the goats, so we're not wasting a whole lot of time walking back and forth with it. It's right here. There's, I think, 7 baled bales, and the rest of it's all loose.
Yeah, the whole bottom is loose.
The whole bottom's loose. It's protected from the weather. We've been using this for almost a year now and have had no issues with
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but still, it's not gotten wet.
It's going to be going on a year before that's empty. And it has kept everything dry. And we haven't had any issues with it getting wet, so we don't have to worry about our feed spoiling with them. This one over here is the other structure that we got. There was a coffee shop, a little mom and pop coffee shop that had this at a college that they sold their coffee in the cafeteria area. The college ended the contract with them and shut down the library because of the COVID pandemic time. They were told that they needed to get off the property. We purchased this for,
I think this one was 400.
300 or 400.
Off Facebook Marketplace.
Off Facebook Marketplace. We happened to see it. It was maybe 20 minutes away from us. 20, 30 minutes
Easily
away.
fit on. We don't have a huge trailer.
Yeah.
We have a, how big is our landscape trailer?
It's a 12-foot by 7-foot landscape single axle trailer. It was light enough that I was able to put a hand truck under the front half, lift up, and pretty much pull / push it onto the trailer. Strapped it down. Probably should have gotten this one second, but we got it first because then we took another hour and a half, 2 hour drive to get another structure.
It was a pretty drive.
It was a beautiful drive, but going down the interstate with this, being as light as it is, and it's nothing but just sheet metal, it really wanted to take flight.
I think we pulled off at least once or twice to make sure it wasn't going to fly off.
I couldn't ratchet strap it down too tight because then I was going to do damage to it. So we really should have picked this one up second, but time-wise, we had to pick it up first because of the way the deal went down. So it's missing a handle, no big deal, but it's a really good shed for what we're using for. Yes, we could use a bigger shed, but for what we need, it works for now. So we're able to get, let's see here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. We have 17 bales of straw, or sorry, hay. 17 bales of hay and a bag of feed in here. It keeps it weather tight. There's pallets on the bottom that were there when we got it. That kind of helps keep the airflow going through. We have air space on all 4 sides. Well, I guess 6 sides technically. And that allows the airflow to go through. It's weather tight for us. It works for now. We could definitely get a better deal on our hay and our straw if we got it in larger quantities. But for what we could afford, for cash on hand and not needing any special equipment, we were able to move this one with our old tractor, which was not very big, not very strong. We were able to put this one in place.
Basically a glorified lawnmower.
Yeah, it was a 70s International Cup Lowboy, which really was just a really big lawnmower. Some old timer had put a boom bucket system on it, which was really cool, but no power steering, turf tires on the rear, 2-wheel drive on a hilly piece of property. It got stuck more times than it was moving, and it was exhausting running because you put all your power into steering the thing with all that weight hanging on the front. So we were able to get that down here. It was able to lift it with no problem. The other structure that we now repurposed for up at the shop that was down here, we had our grain in. Unfortunately, it was allowing too much water or moisture to come in, which was ruining our grain. We were getting mold. So we repurposed it and made this just for the hay. Unfortunately, the system that, the way it was on the ground, we were using wood chips because it's what we had on hand. I had a couple buddies who had tree businesses who would give us wood chips for free. Pretty much it's this stuff here that when they chip up a tree or chip up branches, they need somewhere to go with it. It works great for ground cover, works great for erosion issues.
Mulching my garden.
Mulching the garden, keeping weeds at bay. So we had that down, but the chickens like to get in it and kick it out, knock it around.
As you can see, they just do whatever they want.
And the storm that we had last night really did a lot of washout issues.
Yeah.
So both this one and the other one were sitting here. We moved both of them, we moved one up to the shop. We moved the other one over here. We put a nice stone pad on it so it was able to handle the weight. We tried using the grain in here, but because of the system this is, you get it in a box, you put it together. It was making the bottom bow out, and it just couldn't handle the weight of all the bags of feed. So that's how this one came onto the property. We live in the heart of Amish, and in Amish country here in Lancaster County, there are
shortage of
more shed companies than I can count. I used to haul sheds, and I used to work for a bunch of them as a contractor, so I know a lot of them. We paid $150 for this shed. The bones of it are strong and good. It needs some TLC. This shed is now going to be our weather-tight, waterproof shed for grain. We got a handle from the shed dealer for $12, supporting small mom and pop, and being able to just not have to make an extra trip to pick up hardware to put a handle on it.
We literally put this in place last night, so that's why it's still like
in the midst of the storm. Literally, as soon as the forks from our neighbor's skid loader, because it was too heavy for my tractor right now with the fork setup I have that are just hooked to the bucket. My neighbor was kind enough to come over from his property and set it in place with a skid loader with forks. So it has literally been sitting here since last night in the midst of the storm, pouring down rain. We got to put it in place. So this is what we will use to store our grain. It'll keep it dry. It'll keep it out of the way of the squirrels or mice or pests or whatever that might want to get to it, that we were having issues with the other container that we stored our grain in. We can keep extra supplies in these cabinets that came with it, so a bonus. And if we need to, we have another spot that we can brood our chickens or turkeys or
and it's got the windows so we can give them fresh air.
Yep. Or quail. We can put a brooder container in here. We use livestock containers, and they make great brooders. You can clean them out and sanitize them. So there's enough room that we can put those in here if we need to. If we need to put more storage for straw or hay, we can do that, and the grain. So this $150 used shed that we hauled home on our own trailer, so we didn't have to pay a delivery fee, and the kindness of a neighbor who offered just to do it for free.
We did spend about $100 on stone.
Yeah, we did do that, but by spending that little extra money on stone, you're just increasing the longevity and the life of it by keeping the ground moisture at bay.
We still did good. I mean, we probably spent, even if you figure in a little bit of diesel, maybe $275 for the shed that's going to serve us well for a long time.
The railroad ties we had here, this one we had purchased a while ago. This one I found in the woods. So that just happened to be the perfect length. I didn't have to cut any railroad ties, which is a pain. They are extremely hard to cut. I use a chainsaw. It's super dangerous because of how hard they are. The creosote in them dulls the chain extremely fast, but I haven't found any other way to cut through them that is better than using the chainsaw. So this was a blessing because they're the right length, drilled 3/8 holes, 3 in the large one, 2 in the small one. Half-inch holes, and ran roughly 14-inch long pieces of rebar down to anchor the railroad ties so that they didn't move, so they hold our stone in place.
So I think that's pretty much it so that's kind of if you watched our first goat video, it's changed a little bit. We kind of are, adapting as we go and trying to rotate our pasture as we've talked about before.
We're going to use this fall before winter comes. We're actually going to swap out that big water container. You saw the IBC container. We're going to switch it out with this one. The water heater that we have fits inside this lid that doesn't fit inside that IBC container lid. And this one's designed that you can put an electrical cord through here.
And this tank came from the same guy that we got the animal carrier from.
And I got this for $40. Right here's the price tag of what it goes for years ago when he got it. So there's no shame in marketplace, yard sale, Craigslist, what other avenues there are for finding things.
Thrift store? We've gotten plenty of crap at the thrift store for the homestead.
If you can use your imagination and think outside the box, you can really save yourself some money and save yourself some time. The milking stand we got on Marketplace, and it was maybe 10 miles down the road.
Having a ZAD on your property is a huge help, because if I had to do this by myself, it'd be a big old hot mess.
Yes, I could have made the milking stand. It's very simple, straightforward plan, but we got it for...
I think we paid $100. They're the sweetest family. They foster and adopt kids. They do 4-H. Yeah, they homestead. They probably talked to us for 2 hours because we were new to goats.
And, you know,
so I was happy to give them my $100.
Built a relationship there, a friendship there, and it saved me, I don't know, a couple hours at least of having to build it, and it didn't go to waste. It didn't get thrown in a trash pile or a burn pile.
And it's perfect. And it works perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's many things that we've repurposed, rehabbed. I had 2 rain barrels, one that we brought with us when we moved here, and one that was here when we moved in. Both Fisker rain barrels. They're expensive rain barrels, great, nice rain barrels. They weren't working as rain barrels, and we didn't really need them on this property for their intended purpose. We turned those into our water system for the chickens.
Which we should do a video on our water system for the chickens, because people ask us about it all the time. So we'll do a video about that soon.
The first year we put it in use, we had less chickens than what we have now. We started it in early spring, and it got to the time of fall when we started having freezing temperatures, and that the containers were probably about half to a quarter way still full of water. We ended up dumping the water because we didn't have a heating system for them yet. This spring I revamped it, added more cups for the chickens, and it now has a heating system.
So we'll talk more about that in another video, because the chicken water system is like a whole thing. And we could do a video on the goat water too, because people have asked me about that too. So as always, we hope that this is encouraging, that maybe if you were thinking about getting into goats, but maybe feeling like you don't have enough space, or you live in the woods, or you only have, you know, an acre or two, you don't have a lot of money, you know, we are always, whether you have the money or not, I feel like it's just a matter of being good stewards of what you do have.
And I will say that I was the first, and still somewhat strongly hate goats and not like goats, but so far they haven't been too bad. And
they don't get out.
Everyone I talked to said they got out, and they're escape artists and Houdinis. But, you know, this Premier 1 fencing that we use, it's been pretty top notch.
Good stuff.
You know, it's not too hard to set up, especially if you're doing it out in a grass pasture area. It's a little more cumbersome and a little more harder to set up in the woods, just because you're getting snagged on tree limbs or brush or sticks or twigs. But in all, it is really great stuff, and we haven't had any issues with them getting out because of it.
Right.
It was a gate that didn't get closed all the way, or when we were having some electrical issues and the fence was down electric wise, and they got through it that way. But when it's energized, we haven't had any issues. So I definitely am happy with the money that we put out for the Premier 1 electric fencing.
Yeah. All right, guys, we hope that you learned something. If you have questions about our goat setup, or questions, I mean, we're not experts, but questions about dairy goats in general, let us know, and we will see you next video.